Morning guys. Hey, it's actually 12. This video is why I've struggled to be consistent and why you maybe have to. So just disclaim by saying my top isn't done because I actually can't do it myself. Imagine it's just sat like this because it's how it's supposed to be sat, but it's unfortunately not doing it. So but I like the red, so I feel like I look like a tablecloth, like a human tablecloth. But anyway, why have I struggled to be consistent? As you can tell by countless missing of weekly posts. I'm gonna get straight into it. I think mixing faith and career is very, very technical. If you create Christian content, then your ability to create something is based on your relationship with God. None of us have the perfect sunshine relationship with God where we're always talking to him all the time, everything is so happy and fairy and daisy and everything, we're always on fire all the time. That's just not real. We go through highs and low seasons, and we grow to a point of becoming a bit more consistent, but we also experience new life experiences that affect our faith. That's why it's common for creators like myself to take breaks, to recharge, to refuel, to re-energize, to rejuvenate, to rethink what we actually want to do. Because sometimes you really do go through the motions of doing something and then just thinking, what am I actually doing and why am I still doing this? And let me know if any of you guys have struggled with this. I think it's a lot of pressure to have a stable quote-unquote relationship with God all the time, always be kind of escalating in this kind of exponential growth kind of way, when in reality all of our relationship with God are like this all the time, a little bit of this and then it's like that, and it's just never straight linear. I think there's an expectation probably that I put on myself, maybe not from other people, to be progressing in a certain way, especially if your audience expect that from you, that kind of content from you. I do believe that there is a special grace given to certain people to achieve certain things for the kingdom, because God wants his kingdom to grow and he also wants his name to be glorified. So there's a grace given to each person for the gift that they have been given. The Bible talks about how to whom much is given, much is required. I think sometimes we take it upon ourselves to give ourselves much, and then by default much is required, but that was never the plan of God, or at least the timing of God's order. I guess a modern day example would be like people who want fame but want fame for the wrong reasons. Like by nature of you having fame, much is required of you, but you may not have had the call or the special grace for it, but you still have the same requirements and expectations from you of the same person who was given that same call, if that makes sense. Give me your opinion. I don't think your whole livelihood, income or consistency should come from your ability to be a Christian. This whole idea of being an ambassador of Christ, I think, can be taken in this idea of almost like an influencer. Like you want everything to be shown as like going well, working well, because that's the only way that will kind of attract people to Jesus. Because if you show the other side, or the side where you're not doing so well, or you don't really like God that day, or you're not really feeling like praying that day, it's not good for evangelism, it's not good PR for God. And that is just unrealistic and not anybody's life with Christ. I actually think it's very, very poor evangelism, because you're trying to sell Jesus as a great guy who will solve all of your problems when you want and keep you happy all of the time, when that is just not true. If you don't show the other side, how will they know? Until they get into it and then they're like, why did no one tell me this? And I feel like I've had so many conversations with believers, friends, and even non-friends or acquaintances or whatever it is. I feel like people constantly have this kind of thing of like, okay, why did nobody tell me this? Or like, I'm going through this alone because I feel like nobody has spoken about it. The fact that that is the way that we start sentences so much in Christian spaces is absolutely ridiculous. And it shows that we've sold something that's not true, or rather that is a half-truth of what being a believer actually is. I think there's so much danger in your paycheck being solely based on your relationship with Christ. That is why I'm sorry, I cannot. That's why I denounce this whole being a Christian content creator only, because what does that even mean? What does that even mean? What does that even mean? I think everyone has a different perspective. It's kind of the same way, like even as a musician, if you're a musician who creates Christian music, I can see the pressure, because like you want to appear a particular way or like fit the aesthetic of what people think your music is supposed to be, but I don't think that's good. And I feel like people need to be willing to transition with people's music the same way people need to be willing to transition with people's content and brands and businesses when there is a pivot, because people's lives pivot as well. You can't stay the same doing the same thing that people like just because they like it. But like, if your life is actively changing and you're not showing that, it's the same way like a lot of rappers who are secular, they're rapping about drugs, they're rapping about sex, they're rapping about all of these things. Wasn't it not that time that Future said, oh, I don't do drugs? I don't know, I don't quote me, but like some rapper said, I don't even do drugs. And that's all you're rapping about. But it's like, because you know that's what works, so you're still speaking to those people who are your audience. If you start speaking about what you actually have now, which is actually healthy, like you're not in an unhealthy relationship, you actually are married and you're not looking to like have sex with all of these guys that you're talking about in your music videos, you're not taking drugs because you're actually fine, like, but you're still talking about it because it's what sells. That is a trap of the enemy and it's a lie of the enemy. But as Christians in our industries, we should be able to show people the ability and the importance of letting people transition with ourselves and our lives and our careers through our body of work, and showing people to actually follow us and not follow a version of us that has passed. I really hope that's making sense. I know that I'm going on a tangent, but I really wanted to especially bring it up in the music industry, because I feel like, for example, a Christian music artist can start off talking about how happy they are with their relationship with God because maybe they've just given their life to Christ. And I'm not saying that you're not happy when you're deep in the faith, been there for many years, cool, but like, then you can, 5 years down the line, they should also be able to have a song about their unbelief, like Faith Child and Called Out Music, where they made this. I just love that song. You guys should listen to it. It's called Unbelief. The lyrics are really, 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 really real and potent to just the feelings of a believer. And just the chorus is like, I don't feel like praying today. And it has some even deeper and profound words within the lyricism. That is what Christian music is as well. And that is also showing the transition of life, because that's what we go through. We're not always, you know, happy. And I feel like if your livelihood is just based and your income is based on your ability to keep the happy-go-lucky relationship with God, I think it's really, really detrimental to the way that you grow as a believer. I think there's also danger in being a Christian personality, which doesn't, again, make sense. I think that is just keeping up an act. You can't keep up an act and you can't misrepresent God in this way. God doesn't want to be represented as one-dimensional person who is always happy. That's Jesus wept. Hello. This is what I wrote. All of us by nature are evangelists, because even without perfect articulation, God was so meticulous in making our stories and personalities evangelism enough. If we suppress this, we rob ourselves and people of seeing our natural evangelism, which is simply our lives are such big forms of evangelism. God was so intentional in the way that he made us to actually naturally give off evangelism. That's why you will watch videos of I wasn't watching it just came up, like Grace Beverly and this unbeliever who had a testimony, and everybody has a testimony. It doesn't matter if you're a believer or not, but everybody has a story that involves something that is evangelizing. It just depends on whether you allow it to bring you to Christ or bring you to something else. But everybody has a story of, from this years old I was this, and now look at me now. Everybody has that, and because of the trials and the things and the nature of just the way that God has created this world in our lives. So by nature, we have to recognize that we are evangelists, and this is potent already. It doesn't take away from us needing to speak the gospel. That's a different situation. But what I'm trying to get at is that you shouldn't feel like your life isn't evangelic enough. A lot of people, outside of Christianity think that we're like a cult, or that we're brainwashed because we all look and breathe the same. We all have similarities in terms of the truths that we believe and the things that God teaches us through him and his word. But your expression has to come from yourself and not through somebody else's way of living Christianity, because there's not only one way to be pleasing to God. It's not the way that just that Christian influencer said or that pastor said that they do this with God, and the way that they do whatever. That doesn't mean it has to be your story. Animals all operate in the same way. They don't have the differences that humans have. Humans operate in different ways. So why are we trying to behave like the animals that God told us to have dominion over, to all be the same as Christians? Why are we all being the same when God is using our diversity as a literal evangelic tool? As in, there are believers who can go on the street and preach the gospel and say that they had the same story as the person that they're preaching to, that they used to be in drugs, or they used to be addicted to alcohol, or they used to be a porn addict, or what, all of these things. And that person can relate to that person and now see themselves in that person, and also see the reality of themselves giving themselves their lives to Christ. But then there can also be another person who didn't engage in any of these things. Maybe they had mental struggles and they could talk to somebody else. Everybody has something different, and each story speaks to different people. You can be a Christian content creator and your career as a Christian can still come before your relationship with God, which isn't good. I think it's easy to share Jesus out of infatuation. Infatuation is just like a short burst of a feeling, right? That doesn't teach us to love the same in every season. It doesn't teach us to kind of have a consistent flow of trying to love Jesus, not just having like a this and a that and a this and a that. And I feel like I'm still trying to get out of the this and a that and a this and a that. So unfortunately, in hopes of appearing like the perfect Christian, I've shied away from moments of sharing when I've been upset with God or angry with God or just struggling. Apparently my theology is wrong if I'm angry with God, which doesn't make any sense. Apparently I've lost all reverence for the one who has created me, and I know him to be my savior and Lord just because I had an emotion that is valid and real and honest and given by him too. I used to literally do social media fasts to recharge myself for the sake of other people, but never actually recharge myself for the sake of myself. I thought I owed people so much by staying strong and being the person that they could, I don't know, like look up to in a way. And I think it's made me battle even more with what truly means to be authentic and real, because I think my perception of that was so skewed, and now I'm learning so much in the last year literally. And I'm so thankful to God that these experiences have, though been difficult, made me find actual hatred in the curated Christian things that don't grow my faith, don't grow my understanding of God at all. Curated Christian things and the spaces and the words and the languages that Jesus actually doesn't care about or said in his word have to be left on the wayside. I know even more that Jesus cares about my realness online. He's made it clear, and my holistic capacity is so important for me to share. Before I singled myself out to fashion content, and then I singled myself out to Christian content, and then I said fashion content again, and then I said Christian content, and then I said let me do only cinematic content, and it has to be so perfect and curated. And now I'm like, I could do anything. I don't have to have it perfect. It doesn't have to be always so polished, because this is what has generally made me tired and burnt out and stopping and starting so many times. The challenge has been wondering whether people are interested in me as a person. Social media tells you that you have to be seen by telling people what like showing them what you can offer them. Essentially, you as a whole person are basically not important, and I find that is such a detrimental thing to be told and to teach people. It always makes people feel like they have to have the need to provide a service for somebody in any capacity, no matter, even if they're doing something small, even if it's just a post on Instagram. I find it so interesting because that's so against just the idea that we love human connection, even beyond just learning something. Like, we don't always need to. Like, that's why the first thing that some of us do when we get home from work is we get food and we're watching YouTube or our favorite show that isn't teaching us anything, most likely, but we just find comfort in that, and that connection can almost relieve us of the stress of the day because we get to connect with a human that even we don't even know. It can make us feel relaxed, or it can make us feel safe, not always just relatable or aspirational content. I want to be my most honest with myself, and I think it will take time to shake off all of the things that I have been doing, that have been curated. I think honestly the word is actually just to keep going and keep trying and keep creating a space that is honest, or else I'll never see the other side of the authenticity that I want to see. I think there's a healing that God wants to bring through me walking through my platforms daily, even on the days that I don't want to. Not only just healing for me, but healing for other people. And yeah, I guess I have to just kind of do that out.